Welcome back to Kayfabe Science, the only science show on the internet that would give its lab goggles away to a little kid sitting in the front row. I'm your host and one hip doctor. I mean, not like a hip doctor, but like a hip-hop doctor? Like a hip-happening doctor? I said like a hip doc? Like a hip doc? Like a hip doc, a hip doc, you don't stop a doc until the dang boogie say up jump the rhythm of the boogity D. I'm your host, David Lee. Now rock it out, baby bubba. Today's episode is the Sharpshooter versus the Scorpion Deathlock. Now, it has been argued by many that these two moves are actually one and the same, but don't you believe them? Because just like a wrestler's decision to wear underwear or not, these differences might be subtle at first, but they can make quite a bit of difference by the end of the day. As history has shown us, both men have stacked up a vast variety of wins throughout their time in the squared circle, and much of that can be attributed to their favorite way to make other people play taps. But both moves are definitely not the same, and what if I told you that their alterations to their final holds also dictated the differences in their moveset playlist? Well, that's the exact hypothesis that I'm proposing here. Because when it comes to both men's arsenals, there are definitely notable differences on how both men choose to bust a move. And there is definitely some sound reasoning behind why. Now, both men definitely have a whole plethora of maneuvers, too many to go over all of them in just one video, but maybe if we just examine a few of their biggest signatures and compare the effects, then maybe we could get the truth with no serum by doing work to my theorem. Okay, now yes, both Bret and Sting do use a similar hold to get their submission on, but in addition to that, they also have a few other things in common too. Such as the fact that both men also like to use the Manhattan drop, the vertical suplex, the bulldog, and more. And speaking of which, both men also like to use small variations on similar moves too. For example, with the aforementioned bulldog, Bret uses a traditional bulldog maneuver while Sting typically uses a one-handed face planting approach. And that right there is the key. Bret's method of attack tends to focus more on his opponent's chest than Sting's version of the bulldog. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Let's just look at it this way. Yes, obviously both men do a lot to attack the back, softening up their opponents for the grand finale hold with moves such as Bret's pendulum backbreaker or his Russian leg sweep, and Sting with his powerbomb or military press slam. However, after that, this is where they begin to diverge, because some of Sting's biggest signature maneuvers include his Stinger Splash and his Slingshot Crossbody, moves that are just great for sandwiching an opponent. But Bret, on the other hand, liked to utilize a few moves that specifically targeted the front of an opponent's torso, with offense such as his headbutt or stomp to his opponent's lower abdomen, or his famous second rope pointed elbow drop, which goes after the chest harder than Laura Croft. Because she's a treasure hunter, not because of her. You know what, never mind. Anyway, while firing focus attacks is definitely something famous to Bret's modus operandi, why does he go after the front of the torso in the first place? Well, it's all about the holding pattern. While their executions may vary from time to time, both men do have their own unique way of applying their finishers. Sting tends to use his supporting hand in order to grip his opponent's ankles, and Sting also likes to keep his opponent more parallel to the mat. In contrast to this, Bret uses his supporting hand to hoist his opponent's knee, which works to ratchet the legs away from the rest of the body. Now, this also aids Bret in being able to pull further back, and with this extra bit of yank, he really knows how to crank on the hold even more, thus putting more force down onto his opponent's front torso, from the lower abdomen up to the chest, by pushing it down into the canvas. This could also explain why Stone Cold Steve Austin passed out before he tapped out, because Austin managed to push his upper body up, keeping his chest off the mat and alleviating some of this pressure. Coupled with the blood that he was losing from his head, it does make more sense that he would pass out rather than attend a tapas party. So while this little extra bit of leverage seems like a small detail, it does add additional pressure to an area of the body that Bret has already meal prepped for his main course move, thus giving Bret the distinct advantage of chiropractic pain on his victim's legs, knees, back, lower abdomen, and chest, creating an entire arc of pain. Well, there you go. Sting's sting definitely stung, and Bret's back rack definitely broke many a man, but now you know more about why they do what it do. And so whether it's a Scorpion Sting or a Sharp Shot, you definitely need to steer clear of both the Scorpion Deathlock and the Sharpshooter, because both can cause even the toughest man to tap like Gregory Hines. Because Gregory Hines was an amazing tap dancer? Get it? What, I can't make a tap dance reference? Do I just have to stick to rap? Is that all I'm good for? Is that all you people want? Because you know what? I've